What is going on? What's going on, everybody? What it do, Turf? What's going on, man?
What's up, Cam? How you doing, man? How was your week?
It was another long one. That's all I can say. It was another long week. A lot going
I
on. It is what
could,
it is, but we made it. It's Friday.
I could, I could double down on that for real. I've been busy. It's Saturday here. I'm in the future, so
I,
that's
I,
cool.
I remember those days. I definitely remember those days of living in the future when I wasn't in the states. So
Right, right, right.
yeah, man, that's a good thing though, man. You all right? Glad hope the family as well. Everybody is good over there. Everybody straight.
Yeah, everybody's straight, man. Everybody's straight. I got a series of events for in the morning. I'm breaking ground with this trencher. I've
Mm,
reached the point of no return. We got our
got
we
that
got
holy
yeah
water
we
down.
we got that holy water down. We're putting the second round of the holy water down tomorrow. Trenching out everything for the DIY irrigation. Salute to you for 5 hours. No, that's probably more. We probably 9 hours worth of work in on that. We got a whole work day in on that
A
DIY
whole work
system, but
day.
yeah, but it's all coming together, man. It's all coming together, and
It'll
yeah.
pay off, man. That's one thing you won't regret. You won't regret those 9 hours. I'll tell you that. Like you having irrigation and
Yeah.
being able to control it, you gotta have it.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how busy we've been since I've been here. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I already, and then I got like two, three TDYs back to the States planned already for weeks at a time. Like I'm not gonna have the time to keep up with the watering. And then with little turf being here now, there's no way the wife can keep up either. So
Yeah.
the irrigation system is almost a must at this
It's
point.
yeah.
So
It's a must for you.
yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, people, we gonna get into this thing. So tonight we're gonna be talking about what I'm calling a fresh topic. Like this is a fresh topic when it comes to lawn enthusiasts, especially cool season lawn enthusiasts. So PGRs, we've heard that a lot of us have heard PGRs before, but if you haven't heard about PGRs, those are plant growth regulators. So we're gonna get into what those are, what it is, and all of that. But we got two guests that we're bringing on. One that really knows the. He's gonna get into the details of it and the science behind what's going on. And we got my man from North Carolina, another Carolina boy. You know I link with those Carolina boys. So another one, and he's gonna get down to show you how he's using it already in application. So you might as well say, hey, call it Missouri to show me state or whatnot, but he out there in Carolina getting it done and already applying it. So this is one of the things that I picked up. So this was Paul from Paul's Prime Cuts. He does have a YouTube channel and everything. We'll get into it. Let him do his introductions. But that is where I was first introduced to PGRs for a cool season lawn. Was on his channel, and then from there I was like, huh. Did a little more digging and a little bit more research, and then I started hearing Demay talking about it. So that's going to be our second guest, and Demay's going to really get into it and let you know what's going on with it. So we're going to get into it, and we're going to go ahead, bring them on, and what is going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
There they go. There they go.
Oh, I've got
But you
to.
got them muted.
Yep, I've got to unmute them. Done.
Let the people
Gotcha.
speak. Let the people speak, man.
Check. Check. Are we good? Are we
We
good?
loud and clear.
Can you hear me now?
You got me?
Awesome. No, I was just saying how it's been kind of warm up here. It's been like it's the first, couple days of shorts weather up here.
Yeah.
It's not quite Carolina, like we're not in speedo weather yet, but we're getting there. So I'm excited to talk to some Carolina boys, feel some warm thoughts, and you know, we'll see what we get into here. But yeah, Paul, I'm excited to be on here with you, man. It's been a while since we chatted, and I know we dove deep last time we talked on this, so this is gonna be a good, fun conversation, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to make up some stuff to get an hour out of it, but yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think once the May gets going, I don't think it's gonna be I don't think it's gonna take that long for us to get to an hour. And I know a lot of people have got questions about this, which is why I talked to both of y'all about it, because I mean it continuously comes up. Like I think it even came up on Thirsty Thursdays yesterday when y'all were talking with Busy Bee. So it came
Mm-hmm.
up in that conversation. And I think it's come up like so much more. I think people are more interested in being able to, what's the impact? Like what's going on with these PGRs for cool season lawns? And like I said, Paul, you were the first one that I saw actually applying the PGR and talking about it and showing the results of what was going on. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Paul. Like, just let the people know a little background about you and what you've got going on and what drove you to PGRs to start with.
Yeah, I'm Paul Outlaw. I got a turf application company here in Eastern North Carolina, and a little YouTube channel, Paul's Prime Cuts. Like and subscribe. But anyway, what got me started on uh, the Anuew growth regulator was I met with Rod Marquardt at a longology event several years ago, and they were talking about how they were it wasn't an advertised effect of the product, but in their trials they were seeing that at high rates it could significantly set back Poa annua and Poa trivialis. And I have, you know, plenty of both of those. So it is a growth regulator designed for golf. Well, you know, most are, you know, primarily golf and sports turf products. Um, but you can actually growth regulate Poa annua greens with it and not kill them or hurt them. The rate is just way different. At the low rate, it is a very effective regulator for a Poa annua green. And at the high rates, like you would use on fescue, it's really hard on Poa annua. I've seen different scenarios in different lawns, and in some lawns, it just kind of suppresses it and knocks the seed head back and blends the colors together and just hides it in the turf can. And in some cases, you can spray it and you'll have a brown, curled up Poa annua plant where it looks like you sprayed it with some kind of herbicide. So I don't know what the difference is from place to place and application to application in areas of different lawns, even to even narrow it down more. And the same with the trivialis. I've seen it in some cases. It just brings the color of the trivialis away from that lime green and blends it in with the yard. And in some cases, it turns them brown and shrinks them out of the yard. So I don't know why it would have that effect differently, you know, when you see it, but I have certainly seen it. I've been using this product for I got 3 years or more now, and you see the same kind of stuff every year out of it. But even better than the Poa annua control and the blending in the color of the trivialis, which I initially wanted to try it for on some yards, is the benefit of growth regulating that surge growth that you're going to get this time of year. And in my area, probably from about right now on up for the next month and a half, month or two, you're going to be getting, especially the ones that you've gotten maybe too zealous with the nitrogen on and everything else, trying to make them the biggest, baddest, greenest yard in town. You can get tremendous surge growth. And, you know, we can come back because I started that on the yards I was mowing because I don't mow all of the turf I treat by any means, but the ones I was mowing, I can't get over there but once a week. And I hate, you know, I would cut a foot or more off the yard and just make a mess out of it every time I go over there. And regulating it, it just made it where you could much easier. It was easier to cut.
Yeah.
And you didn't dance, because I mean you can really screw the grass up mowing that much off of it at a time and slinging it everywhere and it being just a wet soupy mess. But I mean, we would go from cutting that much off to cutting that much off in a week. And
getting closer to that
the
1/3
temperatures
rule.
were right. You could see that repeated for up to 4 weeks in a row, and it kind of just gradually came on, and it just kind of gradually came off, which is a lot different than any other growth regulator I've used. A lot of growth regulators, like a Tenaxapac or something, when you use that, you see a steep drop off, and that grass will just freeze where you sprayed it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then, depending on temperatures, and it could be a few days, could be a week or 14 days, it'll just go boom, straight back up, more so than what you had it before if you don't catch it in time and reapply. And so you completely negated the whole purpose of what you were trying to do, the beneficial parts of regulating it, moving those carbohydrates from focusing on, reaching straight from the sun to crown and root growth. So, I mean, if your purpose of applying the PGR is to get that root growth and to suspend that gibberellic acid production, making it want to shoot that grass right straight up for the sky, you really need to track your growing degree days.
And that was one
reapplication.
That was the thing that we talked about over on Turf's channel when we had Demay on, was the growing degree days. So that's the whole that. This is a good segue to the second part of why we're having this conversation. So Turf and Demay introduced growing degree days to the community, and now we're actually coming in with a particular application for using those growing degree days, like you just said, Paul. So Paul basically has given us that real life application of it. Like that is why, and as he said, he's a business owner. A lot of people will look at this as in, well, here we've got, I'm supposed to be mowing it. Like why would I regulate the grass so that it doesn't grow? That's what I'm there to do. That's how I make my money. But as Paul just explained it to you, there's some benefit into what you're doing as far as with using a growth regulator. So yeah, and that's the main reason Paul is here. Paul has that real life application of it, and as a business owner, and how it has benefited him as a business, and how it has helped them manage a lot of those lawns during this time of year where North Carolina, they're already getting their spring flush. They're already growing like crazy right now.
Yeah, I think that was worth highlighting and worth reiterating real quick, is that the simple fact that part of why Paul chooses and continuously chooses to run the PGR is not necessarily to mow the lawn less, but overall is better for him and is better for the turf and his client down the line. Like, you're building a healthier turf because you're getting closer to that 1/3 rule, and the benefits from the pro applicator side of it is that you don't have to worry about a huge rebound as you would with other growth regulators. And this regulator is kind of tailored more towards a cool season lawn. Now, I'm not going to dabble in Ryan's lane at all, but I really like that product. I had fun with that product when I had that product, and then I gave the remaining of that product away to Cam as I jumped ship to a whole nother country. But yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and toss it over to Ryan, Mr. Demay. How are you there, sir?
I'm good. I when the EOD guy starts telling you to stay in your own lane, though, like, I'm getting worried. I'm getting nervous about, man. I don't know. I might turn my Fruit of the Looms into a fudge factory if he, tells me to cut the red wire or something here, man. So, uh, listen, that was a. I'm sitting here under my desk. I didn't want to be so outward with it, but Paul is doing that intro, and I'm just fist pumping because like that's it right there, and Cam, you hit on it. I hear this so often, and this is something we've heard for 5 years, especially in the lawn care side of things, where you get guys that are full service, and they say, "Why would I spray a growth regulator? That's money out of my pocket."
Mm-hmm.
And you have to sit there and kind of walk them through. Okay, well, you could look at it that way, right? But there are other things that you can do to show up and make money. And this is where, building your contracts out right in terms of how you set up your mowing schedule. So is it a per week or is it a total number of cuts? Like, how do you do that? And then, there's a variety of other ways, not to get too much in the weeds there, but I think that's an important thing to think about. So, there's other things you can do on site other than mow to make money. And here's the big thing right now that I've talked to a lot of people about at differing levels of sports turf and even lawn care is that fuel ain't cheap right now, and it doesn't look to get much cheaper for the foreseeable future. So you start doing the math right on, okay, what's it cost for me to mow an acre of grass, or what's it cost for me to to mow
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Jones's yard one time versus me spraying it and maybe saving a mow or two, right? And I just show up,
Mm-hmm.
I pick up some trash, blow the beds out, maybe edge the
Put an
sidewalk, something
edge
like
on.
that.
Put
But
an
I'm not.
edge on it. Yep.
Yeah,
Clean
yeah,
it up.
yeah.
You saving yourself time. Now
Now
you
you're
can
saving
you can go
yourself
cut another.
fuel
Now you can cut a whole nother
and
lawn.
time. Exactly, exactly. So like, I think hopefully, if nothing else, everybody's pissed about how much fuel costs and what labor costs are going to, is use this as an opportunity to put something like this into your business. And that's sort of the pre-pitch for me. And I make no money from the in the industrial complex of PGR manufacturing or anything like that, but I do see it as a tool. It's a huge tool, and it takes a guy like Paul's Prime Cuts to say, you know what, I'm not scared of this stuff, and that's the point. You need guys like that are willing to go out on a limb, right, and gals, to say, hey, like, this is not going to affect me in a negative way. This is actually a
Right.
positive, right? And there's many different ways I can sell this. I can sell it as, I'm going to be a better service provider for you. Number one. Number two, I'm going to do, I'm going to provide healthier turf for you, because that is a very real thing. It's a research backed thing, right? In terms of that pre-stress conditioning that we get, building roots, not forcing top growth at a critical time of year going into summertime, which is a little bit different where Paul's at than where I'm at. And you need every last millimeter of roots that you could possibly get to make it through those summers. So you do what you can and you hang on tight, and that's what he's doing. So I'm excited to talk about it tonight. I think it's a great topic. It's a timely topic. And no matter if you have never even heard of these things before, if you've heard of them but you're on the fence and you're like, I don't know, like, that seems like a lot. It seems like I could screw something up. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I guarantee you, between Paul and myself, we've seen all ranges of the good, bad, and ugly with these things. So,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot more good than there is bad, and much more than there is ugly. I will say that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Paul said, I didn't see much of a reaction with the Poa Annua as much as I did with the Triv in my area. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually used it because I got it specifically because of the Poa Triv. And then I still had to come behind and clean up the Annua with the ethofumicate. So I think it's pretty interesting how in different regions you're seeing it react differently in these different laws and these different programs as well. Um, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
I could see it act different from lawn to lawn, sprayed out in the same tank in the same neighborhood. I mean,
Yep.
That's
it's
wild.
really difficult to
That's
explain.
crazy.
That's wild, right? Listen, that's wild. Yeah, yeah. But
Any
that
any
for the
any
Triv,
uh
it really like beat that Triv. It pissed it off good, real good, and then it kind of just took a back seat for the entire season. It was still there, didn't die, but it definitely gave me a more visually appealing lawn at the end of the season. And that was worth. And I think I said at the end of that whole test trial I did, I was like, look, if you don't feel like burning your lawn down and then possibly still dealing with it, or cutting it all out and then still possibly still dealing with it and just using it almost like a pre-emergent in your lawn for crabgrass type thing, knowing that you're not really ever controlling it, but you're getting a good suppression on it, it could be a tool for you worth having in your toolbox. So, but there's other added benefits that come along with it as well.
And I want to piggyback off of that, like right here up front as we get into it. And I think all three of the guests on the panel right now have said that, including Turf, that this is not gonna eliminate your POA issue. It is that is not what we're saying. This is not your solution to getting rid of POA. Suppression, potentially. You've heard scenarios of where it has really dinged it up and really pushed it back, almost killed it. And we've heard where it's just suppressed it to the point where your good turf is now able to thrive and overtake it. And is that POA there? Probably is, but yeah, we're not here to say that this is your end all solution to getting rid of that.
In my area, Poa's kind of short lived in most
Yeah,
cases. Is get. I mean, sometimes you'll have a rogue one hanging out somewhere that'll last for a long time, but
it gets so
uh,
hot so quick.
right. So I mean, we've got a few months where we see it and it's flowering and all that, but as soon as we get the good hot snaps into May, first part of June, for the most part, it goes away. And Trivialis, for sure, goes out of the lawns as soon as it gets hot here. Right now, it's kind of peaking because it really is showing off that bright green color,
Mm-hmm.
and the Anuew really does help balance that out. And like I said, in some cases, it shrinks those plants right on down. But I have heard every lawn care applicator come up with their own Poa trivialis concoction to murder it out of the yard. Something short of nuclear waste that cost about $3 million to do. And I mean, I'm not there to that point that I want to get rid of it that badly, but that's an interesting weed. I don't ever see it in a warm season grass or just growing on the side of the road or anything else. So I mean, that tells me where it's coming from. It's in fescue seed. Um, so we're putting it there. So
Yeah.
you're never gonna get rid of it if every time you overseed you're getting a little trivialis back in the yard.
And
Yep.
and another reason why your seed choice and seed quality is even more important. Because
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be honest. Over the past, I didn't see it last year. Didn't see any the year before that. I don't think I saw any the year before. But I just pulled out my first
Ooh.
Triv and Poa plants
Mm.
yesterday,
Gross.
and I was like,
Gross.
like, please
Gross.
don't tell me this is gonna be the start of what kind of season this is gonna be. Because even when everybody was struggling with Poa last year or this past year, um, I didn't see a bit in my backyard that I did the full renovation on. I didn't see a bit, and I only saw a couple of plants in the front yard. So I've been pretty good on Poa, but I did just pull out my first couple of plants yesterday.
Mm. Yeah.
See, and I think that's indicative too, though, of what, really, like, if you're you were, let's just say that you're, well, you're, this is a good scenario here, Cam. So you said this is your third growing season coming into it, correct?
Yeah.
That's what you're, okay. And I think that's really good that you're able to hold it off that long, because anybody who tells you they have a control strategy is full of you know what, and it is all about mitigation, right? So if you start in bare ground, the things that you can do, the tricks that you can use are not necessarily PGR related, but like tenacity gets a bad rap, but that's really the best thing that we have. That's not exceedingly and stupid expensive to apply, right? It's
Right.
seeding that can prevent POA. So, work out of Rutgers. This is like 10 years ago. 48% control on bare ground with Poa annua. Now it drops down to like 20% the second year if you're trying to pry it over the top and kill it. So this is where you shift and go from a herbicide strategy into a PGR strategy, and the goal should be just like what Paul's talking about is you get on you get on something like Anuew, and the effectiveness from plant to plant, yard to yard, all that kind of stuff can have some variability, and you'll find out very quickly how successful or unsuccessful you're being, right? You'll get immediate feedback as to how that's working. But the whole idea here is that if you can weaken these plants, right, and keep it to where that they're not at a net gain year over year, or limit the net gain that they are making year over year. That could be the difference between having a yard full of POA in year 5 versus like year 12. And you see that that's a
Yeah.
golf strategy that folks employ. Somewhat of a sports field strategy depending on how things are being established, and it can absolutely be a launch strategy too. So I think it's a good tool, and I think the idea behind what you'll find on the POA suppression with Anuew in particular, and you won't find this with TNX or Trinexin Pack or Primo, whatever product you want to use of that flavor. But the idea here is that um, Anuew, right, is taken up by annual bluegrass much better than it is just about any other grass except for Kentucky bluegrass. So in that POA genus, it's very, very well taken up in the plant. And then what you'll find is that when those plants try to go and flower out, right, and produce seed, it doesn't necessarily reduce the seed head, right, uh, to the point where there's nothing there, like some growth regulators can do to limit and completely limit seed head production. But what this will do is basically shrink that down just enough that the plant is still using energy to push that seed head out, which takes up quite a bit of energy in the spring, right? As that plant is growing, and what it essentially does is really screws that plant going into summertime. So when you get into the heat of the summer, right, plant has used up a ton of its energy, but it's also been shrunk down a little bit to
Right.
where all the other grasses around it have some competitive advantage. And then at that point, you should be able to push spring growth. You should be in your flush. Even though you're under growth regulation, you still should be able to outcompete that POA. And then now you get it into a weakened state in the summertime. And heck, if you're in North Carolina, you let that stuff sit there and bake and croak out. So it's one way of looking at it. It's a very, very high level way of looking at it. It's a day to day, week to week, hand to hand kind of combat when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to this stuff. But it can absolutely work as a strategy, but you got to stick to it. That's the other thing too. It's not just like hey, I'm going to do it every other year and hope I have success. It doesn't work like that.
Gotcha. So let's start. Let's take it back a little bit because we
Sure.
jumped in and we got going on it.
Get
So
deep. Yeah.
and Paul led us there, and I was ready to get there. So I was like,
Good.
let's go. So let's just introduce PGRs. So we went to Anuew, especially from a cool season standpoint. Ryan, if you could talk to us, just give us an overview of a plant growth regulator and what it does in the plant when you apply it. And for a cool season lawn, I know we're mainly Anuew, but are there other options that you could go with um, for a cool season lawn?
Great questions. All right. So, plant growth regulators are compounds, man-made synthetic compounds um, that are used in the context that we're describing them. Man-made synthetic compounds that are used to reduce the overall growth rate of the plant. And depending on the type of growth regulator that we're using, it will influence certain physiological processes in the plant to do that, right? So the two that we're going to talk about most predominantly in this particular show are going to be Anuew, as we've already mentioned, right, which is prohexadione calcium, all right, and then there's also Primo or Tnex, and the chemical name there is trinexin ethyl. Now they both affect the same specific process in the plant where the growth hormone that makes plants grow, like makes cells elongate, right? So imagine top growth and cells growing up, right, and expanding upward. Uh, that is a plant growth hormone called gibberellic acid. And what these both of these products here, the Anuew and the Tnex, will do is block or reduce the rate at which gibberellic acid is produced in the plant at a very late stage in that. Okay, so the interesting part about that is, both of these products are working in the same mechanism, but they work a little bit differently in terms of what we call the amplitude, which means like how much they regulate the growth, right? So if we were to say, okay, hey, we reduce the growth rate by 40% or 50% or 60%, they work a little bit differently in that range. And then also, too, is the length of time with which they will actually regulate growth. And it's also a little bit different between those two compounds. So again, it's they're in the same class, right? But they don't necessarily play by the same rules when it comes to stuff. So that's a couple of interesting points that we'll talk about now. In a lawn care setting, they've been used for quite some time. Going back, oh gosh, almost 25, 30 years now, extensively in the golf world, but even longer than that. I mean, the first growth regulators, commercially available ones, were developed back in the 60s for golf. So it's not a concept that is new to turf. It's just trying to get them to where they're easy to use for DIYers and lawn pros alike. That has been a much slower march to get to that point. And so that's a quick synopsis on the products and what they do at a high level. But let's dive a little bit deeper. What else? Where else should we take this?
Well, before we shift gears a little level deeper, I want to hit something that I saw earlier before we get too far away from it. There was two questions
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah,
there. There's
yeah, I was
three,
gonna
and
do the
if you
same
can
thing.
knock them. Okay, all right, cool. So Lawn Maverick earlier, he said, "Can you guys talk about T-Nex in light of possible Poa annua pressure?" My interpretation of the label is that that's a no go. It's interesting why some PGRs are used to suppress seed heads and others may counter. That would be the first one. I'll let you take a swing at that while I look for the second one.
Let me
Um,
read this again real quick.
Well, I'm going to, while Ryan's thinking,
Go ahead.
I knew it was designed to be pretty uh, really effective on Poa annua, not in the terms of controlling Poa annua or killing Poa annua, but as a actual regulator for Poa annua putting greens. So it is easily taken up and has a longer life. The cycle of it inside a Poa annua plant, so its duration on a low rate is just as good as at a mid or a higher rate for that, for a Poa annua turf. So it is kind of designed more or less to regulate Poa annua primarily. Uh, so it's going to be taken up and last a lot longer inside a Poa annua versus a Tenaxapac. So I mean, I guess is he asking why Tenaxapac doesn't have the same control over Poa annua as the prohexidine?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
yeah, the prohexidine is more targeted to growth regulate Poa annua and to be able to as a selling point for it, you can Poa annua golf greens can use a lower rate and get the same, nearly the same duration as the high rate of control on their greens. So it's a cost saving thing and a way to sell the product. It's pretty much was designed for.
yeah, It's very, and it's also very much a quality thing. Paul makes a great point there about how that product was developed. I mean, Anew's fairly new in the marketplace, but it's been in testing since like the late '90s, right? So,
Hmm.
uh, not a new chemistry by any stretch, but just figuring it out. That's one thing that has been a difficulty as far as research and bringing these products to market and finding out what they can and can't do is just like Paul said and alluded to earlier is that the differences on different turf types even within the same property or from house to house, subdivision to subdivision, can be different, right? And we know that we've seen that bear out through research. So it's taken a lot of testing to try and figure out what works and what doesn't. So the other thing there, just sort of as an aside or backstory, is with putting greens in particular, the reason that that product was developed, Paul hit the nail on the head. You have two different grasses that grow in close proximity, like within the same putting green, that are being maintained at an eighth of an inch or less. And when you put Trinexin pack or Primo on them, they kind of react a little bit differently, and it can be a little bit problematic where you got puffy bent grass and then real close cropped, nice dense Poa, and it creates variation in the green. People don't like that, so Anuew is developed so that you kind of modulated that effect of how much it hit on bent grass versus Poa annua, and the research has bear that out that it gets into Poa annua much easier, so it regulates it better than what it does into bent grass. Okay, so last thing here on this. Oh, go ahead. You was
So
gonna say something?
yeah, so as you were talking about Poa, which is also in the same family as KBG, I believe.
That
Correct.
is the
Same
family,
same
right?
family and
Isn't
Yeah,
genus.
isn't
Same.
that is the
yeah,
genus like Poa, and I think that kind of leads into what Lawn Maverick just said as well. But to be clear, when you say Poa, it encompasses
yeah.
like the
Kentucky.
that's why it's so
Yeah,
hard to get rid of because it's
yeah,
in the same family.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I digress.
And
No, no,
that,
no.
that
Great
that's
point.
kind of why I was trying to tie the two together of what was going on, and and to address one other question as you were saying that, talking about rates and it being able to get into the Poa plant a lot easier and it kind of absorbs it better. Would you want to go with a lower rate if you were running it on a KBG lawn? Is there any?
No, because so that's an interest. That's a great question. Fantastic question. Is the work that was done, and this is Virginia Tech. Oh God, 15 or more years ago, where they looked at that. So it actually gets into the plant, but the metabolization rate, right, the amount that actually gets processed by the plant, is about the same across all those species. So it's just
Gotcha.
because more gets in, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's much more metabolizing. So they did a lot. That was a lot of the front end work that went into that. And like I said, that was 15 or so years ago. And you see just how long it took to get to market to where they were comfortable
Right.
with, what it could and couldn't do. Just to follow up
Okay.
on Lawn Maverick's question, I don't know if the seed head suppression PGRs are an entirely separate deal. Um, I don't want to confuse people or go into it too deeply, but essentially what they do is greatly increase the rate at which those seed heads develop, right? And so much so that they don't fully develop or mature enough to where they're putting out like viable seeds, and then you don't even see them on the putting green, or it, you don't really see it at lawn height, but lower height of cut is where you see it the most. So those are separate, those are different. Don't worry about those for right now. They're not going to help or hurt at lawn height.
Well,
Gotcha.
another, when you say on lawn height, another good thing to note is the duration of the product too is going to be a little. From my experience, I'm getting more growing degree days on 4-inch tall fescue than you would a putting green because they're when you've got a putting green cut down at whatever you cut it, for one you're not getting as much material.
What happened?
Oh no, we lost
Oh no.
Paul's audio.
Oh,
Somebody
I thought.
somebody calling him. That's what,
Oh, it could be. He's talking. Did you mute him?
yeah, he's no,
No,
can't hear you, Paul.
we can't hear you, Paul.
He's still
Uh oh.
going though. What happened, Paul?
He
Can you hear
he
us?
he muted himself. and I can't unmute him.
Oh,
I can't unmute him. Hey, Paul, you muted yourself somehow.
You fat fingered it, man.
is he gonna try? He might try and
Yeah,
reconnect.
he might try and come
All
back
right,
in.
so it
Yeah.
he's making some Paul's making some good points there about like the modulation, right, of it, the amplitude. uh Turf, can you put that little graph up that I sent you here a few minutes ago? We can run through that real quick. It's a good time to.
Uh,
I sent it to you on the
I
Discord.
didn't know you. Give me a moment. Cam, you stalled. Do something else while
Yeah,
I get that pulled up.
yeah. Just send it to
And
just
I
email
can
me
send it
that.
to you. I'll pull
Yeah.
it and then I'll send it to
Oh,
you.
I can send
All
it to
right.
you, Cam. I'll send it to you real quick.
Yeah.
He doesn't have it.
Um.
Bear
It'll be
with
easier
me.
for me to send it to him.
Oh, that's fine. I
He
got
don't
it.
have
I
it
got it.
pulled up.
Look at, boom. All right, I sent it over to him. So, I'll kind of riff on this real quick while we're getting this loaded up. But one of the things I know we wanted to talk about was, well, you know, how long does this stuff last, right? And how do we know how much to put out, like from a rate standpoint, and then what is that going to do from a time perspective? So I'll give you kind of a little bit of a backstory about how this has evolved and how long it's taken to get to this point. So back in the olden days, and this is 20 or so years ago, there was the thought process of, hey, we had a starting rate that we thought was a safe rate to start with, and go ahead with whatever surface run. So it's usually a lower rate. The lower the height of cut you went, and kind of went from there.
Okay.
And basically, what we would say is that, well, okay, as we start to apply this stuff and we get into the heat of the summer, it seems like we got to crank our rates up, real, much higher. So if we're starting at like a quarter ounce, let's say, per 1,000 square feet, by the end of summer we might have to be at like 2/3 of an ounce, right? We might have to more than double that to still seeing the same efficacy. And everybody just sort of generally accepted and said, oh, sure, that makes complete sense. So some researchers, kind of figured out what guys were doing and gals were doing out there in the field, and said, well, something about that doesn't make sense. Why is that? What's causing that particular relationship that, hey, we need to increase the rate as the year goes on? They start looking at it and they figure out, come to find out that, well, guess what? It's not necessarily that you need to put more out. It's just that the product is being metabolized and consumed by the plant at a faster and faster rate, because this these particular products are all based on temperature, right? So how much heat we have, and the more heat that we do have, means that faster and faster the plant burns through it, right? So whereas a application at a quarter ounce per thousand, let's just say, might last in this time of year in March, in my area in the Midwest, could last 4 weeks, right? Could last 3.5, 4 weeks. That same application in middle of July might last somewhere between 6 and 8 days. So it's all a function of heat and accumulated heat over a certain period. And this is where we get into growing degree days. And that is, there we go. See? Yeah. So
Yep.
growing degree
And
days,
I think
we kind of
now go.
that in when we had a little chat about this a few months back. And I don't know, where do we land? Where do people land with the concept of growing degree days, Cam?
So I think people understood it. I think it touched the surface. I think we touched the surface on growing degree days. Just give us a little definition, just a brief definition on what you mean by growing degree days. And actually, what I'll do is, so this will be a little early segue, but um, this up real quick
Uh-oh.
to to just kind of be able to talk through this just a little bit,
Oh, wow.
just a little something to be able a visual to kind of talk through growing degree days.
So that, yeah. So growing degree days overlaid with growth potential, right? So you kind of have a big picture, small picture point of view here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start at the big picture. The growth potential here. This is a function of both temperature and
And
moisture,
moisture.
right? And what this looks at, it says, okay, hey, how much could my grass possibly grow? Again, up to a ceiling of 100%, and then on down from there, based on the temperature and the amount of moisture that we get. All right. And so, a couple of things to think about here is number one, this is indicative of a cool season grass here in North Carolina, right? Where we look at this, what we call a bimodal growth pattern, okay? Meaning that we've got two peaks in this, right? So, look at May and then look at September. Those are our two peaks, and everything sort of falls from there. Why is that? Well, once we get into June, July, and August in North Carolina, it gets really hot, right? And what that
Well,
means
that's
is
in
that we know
Maryland, but yeah,
That's actually mine, to be honest with you.
Oh, all right. Well, this is Maryland. It's even better.
Look,
Dang.
hey,
You,
transition zone, baby.
you know I'm in the armpit, as you call it, the armpit
Oh,
of
listen,
growing
it is
turf.
the armpit. It is the
The
armpit. The
armpit
Mid
of
Atlantic
growing turf.
is again, it is literally the poster child for everybody's favorite saying about the transition zone, where you can grow all the grasses but none of them well, right? So, in this case, again, same thing. You know, we're talking about temperatures that peak in August, and what do we know about cool season grasses? Their optimum temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you reach a temperature of 86 degrees Fahrenheit, major critical physiological processes in that plant start shutting down. Okay, so that's what's driving this growth potential down and down and down and down. Okay, also, August is one of the drier months. Now, July, I know here in the Midwest is one of the wetter months, but that is still not, it's not offset necessarily by the fact that, hey, it's a little bit hotter, but we're getting more rain. It doesn't help it as much. It's a function of both of those things, moisture and temperature combined. So this gives you a good big picture view of what's going on, sort of month to month and, quarter by quarter and year by year of what your grass is doing. Now, growing degree days is a much, much more daily approach, right, to tracking not necessarily what you would see in terms of growth necessarily, but what you will see in terms of products and different plant responses, over the course of time, right? And so, from that, with that in mind, right? So the growing degree day model, right? What is a growing degree day? So it's a unit of measure that we use based on a base temperature, right? And there's different base temperatures that we use for different things. And if we're over that base temperature after we average out the temperature, we add growing degree days. So a couple rules about growing degree days. Number one, they only go up, they never go down. Two, they're always cumulative. And three, if we're depending on the type of either pest or type of weed or physiological response in the plant that we're talking about, it's always from a set base temperature number. So those are typically in Fahrenheit going to be either a base 32 degree Fahrenheit model or a base 50 degree Fahrenheit model. Okay. So what does that tell us? Well, we went through this a little bit on the last show, and I thought it was helpful. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. Share
That
my
link?
screen. I always thought it was Ohio GDD. I don't know, it's a phenological calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ohio.
Do that,
Over there.
do that real quick.
Ohio.
Ohio is like my.
So let's see here.
Matt would have got that one.
I'm gonna share this over real quick.
Base 50,
Sure.
baby. Yeah, base 50 all day. Augusta saw 3 times rainfall over norm in the DMV in 2021.
Okay. So this calendar right here, this is just for Ohio. You should likely be able to find this for your own state, but this just shows that it's not just turf, right? That this is a way to predict with reasonable degree of certainty what is going to take place in terms of pest development, in terms of plant development in the springtime, all these different things that take place. So, like for example, right here, today, as of 3/18 in Columbus, Ohio, we have 73 growing degree days. I believe this is on the base 32 model. So 75. So we should start seeing, and I actually saw a couple here today in some spots, red maple buds in full bloom. Okay, we can go look at this full calendar, and it's going to give us a whole bunch of different things. And I know, Turf, when we were looking at this before, you were getting all giddy because you had all your plants on here. You had some of the insects that you deal with on those. You were hot to trot on this thing. But
Yeah, man, I'm
you know,
big on Japanese beetles, and I mean, from a preventive standpoint, getting on top of them, it was a clutch tool to have. Let me drop the link for that down in the chat because I know it's
yeah.
hard to see in that box that
Oh
Cam
yeah, I might.
threw it in.
Yeah,
So
I'm
there's a lot
trying
of
to
different.
work behind the scenes to
You're good.
I know
rearrange.
you are.
You're
We don't
good.
have a Jake
So
Pink over here. Yeah, we gotta do everything ourselves. Yeah. I tried
listen,
to hire Jake
hey,
Pink. He said I can't pay. He can say I couldn't afford him. So I was like, all right, cool, whatever.
listen.
Buy you some
He's an
dog food.
Oscar winner. He's an Oscar and Emmy winning producer now, and he can't mute me right now, so I can say whatever I want about him. Uh, but
Uh,
so it's a good concept regardless of whether you're into gardening, if you're into just taking care of the landscape around your house or the turf, because they all have there's things that are applicable to all of those parts of horticulture, no matter what, as long as you understand how these things work. Okay. um, so going back to the PGR thing is they said, well, this whole increasing rate thing just doesn't jive. Like something's not right. So they started trying to model it based on these growing degree days. And what they found is that there was actually like, sort of a rhythm, right, in terms of how long those products will last for at a particular rate for a particular period of growing degree days. And the thing that we know too is, let's see if I can get a growing degree day calculator. And
it would probably be easier to throw it on that the scene with your calendar
uh huh.
with your growth potential, Cam, and then just swap it out
Yeah,
there.
that's what I was gonna say, Ryan. If you just send that to me,
Yep.
That way
um,
you can actually
See
you
it.
could drop
Yep.
it in
I can
the
do that for you.
I
guest
the
chat.
only reason I didn't want to, because I was wondering if Paul was gonna jump back in with us, and he would have. Oh no, I still got two more guests though. Oh yeah, Ryan, go ahead and share your screen again, and then I can do it
Okay.
that way. I didn't want to keep Paul out if he tried to join back in.
You are good, man. All right. Let me jump over here and I will share this.
Share it, and then I'll assign it to the other one. Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Let me get a better one here. No, this is just calculated for you. There's not a good. We need a good Excel sheet to show you. Oh, here's Greencast. Greencast is not bad. Okay.
Yeah, they not bad. They alright with me. They
So
actually work over here in Germany too. Believe it or not,
yeah,
like they're all the way.
they're
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 like
they're
yeah,
worldwide,
they're the
man. They're
easier
worldwide.
calendars to walk to check out for sure. Uh,
So this is a
yeah,
good way of looking at it here, where we have a base number here, which this should be a base 50. Okay. And so basically what we're doing is we're taking these two numbers, we're averaging them, right? So we take these two numbers, we divide
hold
that
on,
by
two,
two, and whatever the difference
because
is
we can't
above
see it. There we
50,
go.
we're adding those daily growing degree days every single
There
time.
we go.
Okay. And again, these numbers only go up. So you can see here as this is going up the calendar. Look, right here we had 0 growing degree days above 50 because we were kind of cold, right? It stayed at 113.5 for better part of a week, okay, before we continue to go up. So again, as you're using this, right, to kind of log these growing degree days, and there's other places out there, Greencast isn't bad. It's a good tool for this. Then you can go in and look at this, as long as it's on the same base, and I think this is on a base 32. But again, you can correlate this data. So now as we go to look at the growing degree day thing with PGRs, okay, let's talk about that and let's get into some of the stuff here. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second and I'll pull up this picture and I can show it real quick. Am I good to share or no?
Yeah, just like you were doing.
Okay.
I
All right.
had you good to go.
All right. I'll pull this up. Give me a second here. Oh well, that's huge. Perfect. All right.
Yeah, it's
So
not 3 a.m. Not oh yeah, it is 3 a.m. How about that? You
how
nailed
about that?
it.
What
You
time
nailed
is
it.
what time is
And I'll
reveille for
be
the irrigation crew?
yeah, reveille for the irrigation crew is going to be 10 a.m. since I'm not going to bed until like 4.
That's weak sauce. That's weak sauce.
So
That's weak sauce.
yeah, I
he'll
need at
he'll
least six
Uh,
hours.
he'll be up
You
before
know,
then, Ryan. I'm telling you,
I probably
I
will
know.
he
be
ain't
up.
gonna be able to sleep. He ain't gonna be able to sleep. He'll be up before then,
No.
and I give him I give him till 8. I give him till 8, and he's gonna be ready to get up.
Yeah. He's gonna be, well, and all his neighbors are gonna be looking at him like, "What the hell is this guy doing right now?"
Yeah,
They're
John
gonna be
Rob,
like,
Will, you're right. Greencast, because I still have my alert set up from Maryland, and they actually weren't wrong. Because if you were in when I showed up on Thursday a few weeks ago, one comment that Ryan and all the pros over there, they were saying, people are waiting until you got to the soil temperatures of 50 degrees when really you should have been out sooner because all seeds don't germinate at the same rate and at the same temp. So if you would have been out, if you would have went out a couple weeks ago, if the weather would have allowed you to, because I know Cam, he struggled due to wind and just all types of other variants going on. If you would have got it out a couple weeks ago, you would have been in there, man. You would have been in there like swimwear. So
Yeah, I was struggling. I think I was trying to get it out for about two
yeah,
weeks, and it was
it
just
had 20
wind.
mile per hour winds, freaking 2 inches of rain dumping. Like Cam
Yeah,
had all of the elements working against him, and I was over here like, it looks like spring in Germany right
yeah.
now. I don't know
I
why.
was hating that. Turf was over there like, hey man, it's nice over here, man. We got seeds germinating. We got this going on. The birds are chirping. Hey man, I'm like, bruh, I can't even walk
My
outside and stand up straight.
my garden over here coming alive. Yeah.
yeah, that's man. Those that's I don't know. This is like always my favorite, like my least favorite time of the year because you just can't. It feels like you can never get anything
Hmm.
done
Yeah.
for those particular
Literally,
reasons.
South
Or you get
Carolina
like
got
one
more
good
snow than
day
me.
and you think, man, I'm gonna get all this stuff banged out, and you
Yep.
get like two things done, and you're like, oh man,
Yep.
like I got like
Yep.
eight more things to do. So
Yep.
all right, let's talk about this chart real quick because this sort of illustrates here, some of the research and what they found out, right? So across the x-axis here on the bottom, this is showing you the amount of growing degree days accumulated at 0 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so this is a 200 growing degree day, 0 Celsius scale right here. All right, so as you come across here, basically what they said is that if you're applying about this is the higher rate here on the Anuew. So if you're applying about every 300 growing degree days, this curve should stay nice and flat just below your peak growth, right? Okay. You can take that down as low as about 250 here. So what you're looking at here on these different curves, right, is trim it. Don't worry about trim it. Please don't use trim it on your lawn unless you're crazy and you really know what you're doing. Just
Like
back
Telly,
away from trim it.
Like
isn't
Telly.
Telly you?
Like,
I
like Kelly
think
The Telly
Coleman,
I
right?
brand.
I
think
wasn't gonna
Telly
say
was.
his I wasn't gonna say his name and validate his crazy,
That boy
outlandish
will die
PGR
by
practices. They
trim.
work. He's got a great lawn. I
Yeah,
love his lawn, among other things I love about him. But um, he he makes it work. He makes it work.
yeah, he
But
sure
so
does.
let's focus on these two, the green and the blue line here, right? So what this is meant to show is that Anuew lasts longer than Primo, but not quite as long as Trim It. So again, don't worry about the Trim It, but the thing that you want to see here, right, is
Hmm.
here is Primo. So we're not peaking quite as low on the growth suppression. We're getting about 30% at this rate, and then we start coming back up, and by about 250 growing degree days, we're crossing over that threshold back into the um, the
Rebound.
The
past
rebound.
100%. And so what we call that though is what's a phenomenon that's known as rebound, right? So actually by suppressing that growth hormone, when it comes back and we take the PGR away, the plant actually surges in growth, and you can see here that we're upwards of 20% more growth on this rebound phase of this rebound cycle here. So a couple things to illustrate here with the difference between Anuew and Primo is this, and Primo is the same thing as Tnex or Trinex Impact. Okay, so number one is that we get more suppression with Anuew at the same rate, okay, or equivalent rate. You can see that it lasts a little bit longer here, but you also see too that the rebound is just slightly
So,
higher. So we get more rebound and we get a longer rebound with Anuew. So it's a little bit more forgiving in the sense that you got a little bit wider window here to reapply before you cross back over this critical 100% growth clipping yield, right? But if you miss it and you got to
It's a
regulate
lot
again,
more
or if you
forgiving.
just forget and don't get back on it, this is going to last a while, and you're going to
hmm
hate life here for a while because you're talking about a good period of that could be in the middle of summer, like 3-4 weeks, where you're mowing like
Hmm.
gangbusters. And
Yeah.
so this is something that if you're on irrigated turf, you want to stick with it and kind of be really, really consistent all the way through the year. If you get really, really hot, dry, that kind of thing, I know we want to talk a little bit about diseases and some of the other downsides of this stuff too. But big picture, talk here is if you're on irrigated turf, you can absolutely use it all year long. If you're on unirrigated, I would stop in the very late part of spring, early part of summer.
and that's what I was gonna hit on that just while we were kind of talking about that. Um,
Can I ask something real quick while we're still on the chart?
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Uh, Ryan, because I know someone may be thinking this themselves. Is this specific to cool season turf? This chart
Yeah.
is it? Are we
Hmm.
talking cool season turf? Right.
This
Okay,
is on
that's what
cool
I thought.
season. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Cool. You
and
got it.
and the and the thing that I was looking at, Ryan, is exactly like you said, is that you get more suppression with a new for a longer period of time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also a slower rebound. Which I'm not a fan of jerking the lawn around, whether it's with
No.
fertilizers, with it, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
with anything. Like I would like things that are gonna be more smooth and longer durations rather than quick spikes of stuff with the lawn. So and that definitely is like from a visual standpoint is what you can see the research is showing that you get with a new versus the primo or the trimax pack.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the big picture takeaway here is this: is that Anew is much more forgiving, right? In terms of you've got a wider berth to get through of your re-app intervals, and obviously it's giving you a little bit more suppression. I think where Primo or Trinex Impact fits is if you're super high performance, and this is just talking about the intervals, right? If you're super high performance and you want to adjust rates and do that every, in some cases, 5 or 6 days, in some cases, every 14 to 18 days, right? Just depending on what the weather's like, it's a much easier product to do that with and make micro adjustments and say, hey, listen, we just had, and this is more for sports fields and golf, but this is where you would say, hey, I just had a whole bunch of play on the field. I actually want to rebound a little bit and get a surge of growth, and I want to be able to take it out sooner, and that's why I'm going to use Turnex Impact versus I got to wait longer with an
Mm-hmm.
Anew, and then I might shoot myself in the foot and miss my window of when I have time and the ability to grow it out and mow it and take care of it. So, at a homeowner level, I can definitely see the value in a new over Primo Max, and I'm not endorsing it and saying, hey, you have to use a new, but it certainly is a much more, like I said, forgiving product in that sense.
in, in speaking directly to the homeowner, I think it's worth mentioning when we're talking when he's showing you these charts, right? And we're talking growing degree days, although it may seem a little bit overwhelming, the concept of it seems overwhelming on the surface. Once you understand it, which we've hit it on my live, we hit it again tonight, and it's worth doing your own homework, right? We're here to introduce things to you, not necessarily pour the water in your throat, drink it for you, and then go and pass it later on. You got to do a little bit of legwork on your own. But do understand that in the instructions of it, it tells you that you can just make the applications every 4 weeks. The problem with that is you may miss your window. Like that was
You're
why he
growing, yeah.
showed you that whole chart. because
Be right
based
back, guys.
off the temperatures and your
Right.
growth potential, you could miss your window or come in too hot. You may come in too early, didn't need it, and now you're wasting product. So it's both to save you money, two, to make sure that you're using that product the most responsible way possible. No different from us telling you, begging with you, pleading with you, please go get a soil test. When you ask me what's the best fertilizer to use for spring, for my spring fertilizer, I'm gonna ask what's your soil test,
Right.
because I can tell you what's
It's
best
not a
for you.
specific. It's not a specific product
Right.
to go get.
Yeah. Yeah. What's best for you may not be what's best for me. You know what's best for me this spring? Ammonium sulfate. That may not be the case for you though. So just it's another tool that you can use, but you don't have to use it. But it would behoove you to, dive a little deeper than just surface level, which is what we're here to do. We're not here to just have fun, so to speak, and not dive a little deeper, because fun for us is diving a little deeper,
It
so
is.
to speak.
It is.
Yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah.
is so. I popped this question up from Michael, and I think Turf, you addressed it
I
in
did.
in the chat. But looking at the graph, we'll see if we can get that link to that. I've seen that chart before. I've actually got it. We'll send that link out to just that chart. It actually has growing degree days on the x-axis at the bottom. So,
Mm-hmm.
Michael, you'll be able to see just the way that we were showing it just then. You couldn't see the x-axis on the bottom, but yeah, it's it's around 250 days for that reapply where it actually crosses back over.
Right. And I think the easiest growing degree day calendar to use for anyone is the Greencast one. Like if you're coming, just make sure that you set your base properly. So you can have a 32-degree base, 32-degree Fahrenheit base, or 50-degree Fahrenheit base. Make sure you set it to 50 for cool season turf. As long as you set it to 50, the cumulative does not, it never goes back. It only goes forward. And that's the easiest one to kind of follow along. And it does the math for you. All you got to do is look at it and say, oh, okay, we're at 110 growing degree days. Cool. I
Yep,
got time.
you just got to monitor it.
Yeah, you just got to monitor it.
And that's kind of where I'm at, and so people like I one of the things that I wanted to tell people and talk about, like, this is something new for me, and when we talk about the we working and what we're doing in the off season and the things that we're looking into, this is all new for me. This is something that I am learning and that what I have found a benefit for my scenario. And when Ryan gets back, I think we're going to touch on a couple of those benefits and Paul mentioned a couple of them briefly during his introduction. There are some benefits for a home lawn with different microclimates, whereas a growth regulator such as Anuew would be very beneficial for you to use, which is one of the reasons why I started looking into it once I heard about some of the benefits of that. And as most of y'all know, looking at my backyard, I'm heavily shaded in my backyard when it comes to the summertime. So once the leaves and everything fill out on the trees, I've got a number of big oaks back there. The shade cover gets pretty dense. So I struggle at times to really get turf to harden off and for it to really grow like it should. Shade is another reason for applying a PGR. And I think as Ryan touched on it a little bit, is it stunts that top growth from where now the plant is just keeps trying to reach for the sunlight that is never gonna get because it's in the shade. Now it's able to redirect that energy. It's now able to be able to hold that actual top growth down and drive that energy in other places. So you've got to look at a couple of different. We're talking cool season. If you're dealing with shade on a warm season lawn, this definitely ain't for you. You got other issues.
Right.
But the thing is that this is another tool in the toolbox, as we've been saying, that actually got me to want to look more into this and start learning more about it and making sure that we're continuing to add those tools in the toolbox that Mother Nature's gonna continue to throw us curveballs.
Right, and I think that's super dope that you even thought to kind of get outside of the box on that. That's the difference between doing something because one of us told you to do it versus understanding the science behind what it is we're trying to distribute to you. Case in point, I was using Anuew for Poa Triv and the spring
Yeah,
strengthening it up. Cam understood the product enough to where he was like, well, hold up. In my backyard, I have a lot of straggly growth because it's reaching for the sun it can't get. Well, what's to keep it from what's the where where can I use this in the positive for me? Oh, okay, well then I will just put it under regulation, reduce the what is it called? Gibberellaric
gibberellic
acid,
acid. Yep.
reduce the production of that and let it strengthen out on let it focus on strengthening out on other types of growth. I don't want to misspeak with the lateral growth type thing, but more so just thickening up.
Yeah.
Let it put its energy into that,
Other
which is
processes
super
of the
smart.
plant. Yeah.
Right. I think that's really smart, and then that's when you really know that you're taking tidbits, and then you're fully understanding what the tidbit is that you took, and now you're able to take that product and use it for another applicant, not necessarily like go off label, but that's when you know that you understand it well enough to use it for different specific
Scenario. Right.
applications, scenarios, whether it be personal or even for your business. I think that's cool, Cam, because I didn't even know that's why you were going that route. To be
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
until just now,
Yeah.
because we hadn't really discussed it that much in depth in the chat. So yeah,
Yeah. So that was really the reason for me wanting to go, because one year, of course, I was cutting tall and everything else, and it that year didn't work out well for me, and I was like, I've got to do something different. Like this isn't it. And then I started looking at more of the microclimates and the things that were going on where I was actually struggling. So at that point, shade became an issue, even though it's filtered sun shade, but it's just not enough for it to really thrive. So I started looking at my cultural practices. Had last year of new and different lower heights of cut, different cultural practices, different feeding methods, and what I called a successful year. But what we want to do is continue to get better, like continue to
yeah,
make the lawn better and elevate. So that's was like, what's next? It was still a little straggly. So I
right.
was like, all right, what's something else that I can do? And then happened to start hearing about PGRs, and
And
I was like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense.
So LW50, he says, I believe most studies around GDD based reap intervals are calculated using base temperatures measured in Celsius, not Fahrenheit. The differences can be significant. Well, it's just a simple conversion, right? So 50 degrees Celsius I mean, 50 degrees Fahrenheit is just 10 degrees Celsius. So I think you actually misspoke here. I could be wrong. I would go and check it, LW50, but I'm pretty sure 50 degrees Fahrenheit is 10 degrees Celsius because I'm here and I've been having to go back and forth on that math. So I think it's 10 degrees Celsius for cool season lawns. That's how that would work. And
Yeah,
then warm season lawns should be a little higher. That should be closer to like a 15 or 17 degrees Celsius for a warm season lawn because that's usually warm season lawns wants to be somewhere around like 65 degrees, just like warm season crops in gardening, I would imagine.
yeah. I think he
But
correct. I think he just corrected it in the chat, and I think yeah,
okay. Yeah, yeah, 50 is 10. Yeah. So if it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit base temperature for Americans, then it's obviously 10 degrees. So like it's not going to change a complete temperature. That would be that wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't mesh with science. Our man Ryan is back.
what's going on, Ryan?
Right.
What's
So
up, Ryan?
so
Yeah,
yeah.
you good?
good.
Oh no, I'm fine.
Oh, all right,
Great.
cool. So yeah, we just kind of talked through the reasoning behind why I actually went with started thinking about a PGR and from a homeowner standpoint and different scenarios and benefits of using a PGR. So one of my, which Turf didn't know, one of the reasons I started looking into PGRs was I understood what it did to the plant, as far as it's now going to limit that top growth and now push that energy into other processes and growth of the plant. So
Hmm.
with that, I've got a lot of shade in my backyard. So that was one of the reasons why I always struggle to get turf to harden off and like really be sturdy and healthy turf. Even though it looked good, I could still see during periods of the year that it wasn't at its best. So dealing with that shade was one of the reasons why I started looking into PGRs and the benefits of uh, driving deeper roots, being able to generate, slow down that gibberellic acid production, all of those things to just strengthen up the plant during certain times of the year. Are there other benefits or scenarios where PGRs from a homeowner standpoint would be useful?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the turf health aspects of it for sure. I think the other ones obviously are going to be improved density, right? That's one that we definitely see across all at least cool season species and Bermuda grass on a warm season side at appropriate rates. But you definitely get increased density. There's a pretty well studied effect where again that plant is not growing up necessarily, right? But the foliage, right, the shoots still need to grow at some point, right? They're not completely shut down, and what you'll see is more what they call lateral growth, right? So growing side to side. So you definitely see, especially in solaniferous and rhizomatous grasses, right, that you have increased density by using PGR. So there's one added benefit, right? I saw it mentioned in the chat earlier. I think it was Emily Burcham, and absolutely, there's anecdotal evidence to suggest that late season applications of this stuff, right, which seems kind of counterintuitive because the grass is shutting down, but some late season applications of this will create a deeper greening effect, right? We've certainly seen this in golf turf, and I don't know how pronounced it is at lawn height, but you definitely will see that effect of a deeper green on cool season when you're making late applications. And then finally, just the mowing piece, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're a person that is, like turf, for example, that you want to be home, you want to mow the lawn, you want to do all this stuff, but maybe you don't
You
have
got other
time, or
things to
maybe you
do.
travel for business, or you know, maybe you're out there, kicking it with the boys, and you don't want to mow the lawn, right?
Yeah.
Every Saturday. So I get it, and those reasons are numerous. And hey, everybody's time is valuable these days, right?
Yeah.
And
Valuable
I
and
think
limited.
valuable, extreme limited, right? We're all rolling towards the end here at the same rate. Not to be morbid, but it's true. You don't want to be spending the time mowing the grass an extra time if you don't have to, right? I mean, we all love it and enjoy it, but it's cutting into your free time in the springtime, right? When it's at peak growth and
It
going
gets
crazy and stuff like
excessive.
that. So yeah, so those are probably the biggest benefits I see, and I think are relatable to most folks. And again, reasons why, especially if you're checking all those boxes, it's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
If maybe you're like, oh, you know, I don't have a high performance lawn. I get by. I want it to be respectable, but I don't need it to be like top quality. Yeah, then maybe you don't check that turf health box, right? But maybe the mowing is there for you, right? So I think everybody finds their reason to latch onto, and again, they're numerous, both in terms of the time aspect, the cost, and then also just the overall turf health benefits that you get from it. So, if the more of those boxes you check, the easier decision is. But again, you might just latch onto one and be like, "Yep, that's for me. I'm all
That's
over it."
it. And I think that was just one of the things that kind of drove me to it. I mean, I think most of the people that looked at the title of this conversation and this topic and joined in and wanted to know more about it, they're not the average homeowner when they're like, yo, I PGRs, yeah, I'm with it. and also at the same time, there are so many other benefits that the average homeowner that we just talked about can get from it. I mean, a lot of us, I mean, a lot of people don't want to be out in the lawn during the spring, really having to cut when you should at least twice a week during the spring. When that spring flush is growing, it's at least twice a week that it
Yeah,
really needs to be cut. So if you can limit that to actually being able to get a week and a half, and you're not having to chop it down at that point and excessively go beyond that 1/3 rule, I think I think there's some benefit to this.
100%. And if that's all you ever use it for, like if you're listening to this and like, man, I don't want to spray something every 7, 8, 9 days in the summertime. That doesn't sound like fun. Then just use it in the spring.
Spring.
Literally,
Mm-hmm.
in camp, it's probably not much different where you're at. I would say you could get away with doing as little as 2 and maybe as many as 4 if you were just on a super limited program. Basing it off of growing degree days, 2 to 4 apps depending on your location. Further north, on the lower end of that, and down about where you're at into the Carolinas, maybe 4 apps. And what I mean by that is, you're starting like about now or maybe a few weeks from now, right when the grass really starts to get growing. Maybe you've done like your second or third true mowing, like not that charity mow to
Right.
knock off all the dead stuff or whatever, but you really are actively growing at that point. Make your first app then, and then you're going to make another app based on a 250 growing degree day re-app interval. That's probably going to take you out anywhere from like 14 to 21 days, maybe even a little bit more the further north you go. And so right there, you start the clock and don't
Hmm.
necessarily go up 14 to 21, but look at your growing degree days. And as you approach 250, make your next step. I think what you'll find, again, just what you said, is that you're going to get the two biggest benefits right there just by doing those 2 or 3 or 4 apps. Is number one, obviously the reduction in mowing through a peak growth period, right, on a cool season lawn maintenance schedule. Number one,
Hmm.
that's probably the biggest one. And the secondary effect is, again, you're reducing the amount of shoot growth and sacrificing that for root growth at a time where you want to try and promote as much rooting as you possibly can, because we know that roots are going to shrink, slough off, and die through the
During the summer.
summertime because of increased temperatures and increased soil moisture, anaerobic soil conditions, a variety of other things that make it really, really difficult for roots to grow in the summertime. So if you could
Mm-hmm.
do nothing else and you wanted to do nothing else, just commit yourself to those 2 to 4 apps, and I think you'll be really, really happy.
Yep.
Which is what I did.
And
I
and
just
and
committed to 2 to 4 apps.
and I think that's really where I'm going to be, because right now the lawn itself, I mean, we're coming up on the third week of March, and it's just now like starting to wake up. Like, so I'm still in my wake up phase. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm probably still maybe a 3 weeks minimum, maybe 4 weeks from a solid mow. Like, just to my first mow is
Think that
probably
now.
at least 3 weeks away, probably.
Yeah, until
Really?
Maryland
That far?
decides
Are you
to
serious? It's that
give
far?
you
Because like
summer and spring.
here, things are changing pretty quick. I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know if you're gonna wait
It's
I was
for.
about to say
I'll bet
Maryland
you
gonna
on.
give him
I'll
summer and
bet you on
spring.
that.
If I
but
I'm
this
gonna
know
bet
if I know
you
Maryland, you better be ready. The
extra.
same way you looked at me today and was like, you better be ready for 3 apps. You better be ready for 2 weeks.
Man, I will bet you an extra large Spinelli's pepperoni pizza that you're mowing in less than 14 days. Let's put we need an independent third party. All right, Robert
All right.
Palmer, we need an over under. Set the over under for us. I'm going to what
I
go ahead.
got you.
Okay.
What's the over under here?
I
13 and a
got you.
half? You going to go 13 and a half?
Oh, we're gonna go. We're gonna go. Yeah, 13 and a half points sound good. Yeah, let's go 13 and a
All
half
right, 13
points.
and a half. You're going to take the under.
That's the over
We got
under.
Cam over here taking the over at 13 and a
Yeah.
half.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Now don't, hey, you got to be honest, right? Don't go out. I don't want to see you go out there like, Joe Sixpack, who waits till the lawn gets like this tall, whacks it all down,
Oh,
shoots it
I'm
all out the size
snitching.
discharge into
Don't
the
worry about
street.
it. I'm snitching. He show his
So-
lawn every day. I'll know.
So so
Sand lawn
so
every day.
so
While
what?
he over there, he's over there grinning and his lawn is getting green, and I'm over here smiling and mine is getting brown.
Oh
So
yeah, it's great.
Either
It's
way, either way, you know the funny part is that the only person that wins in this is Polo because either way we're sending the pizza to his house and he's gonna eat it
right,
and we're just
that's
gonna
true.
watch it live
right.
vicariously through him.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Everybody
So
wish
yeah,
Polo a happy anniversary. That's where he's at
yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
By the way, he's
good for him.
celebrating with the wifey.
Good for him
Stop by.
and
He
the
had a
wife.
nice video. His last video, Dr. Polo. Tell Dr.
Yeah.
Polo happy anniversary when you get a moment.
Yeah, and I actually, Paul just texted me. He actually had car trouble that he had to go fix with one of the kids. So he's all good. He's all good taking
Good
care.
cause.
Yeah,
He's all good taking care of some family stuff. Everything's good. Good his way. So
that's good. That's good.
yeah. So
Got a question up.
so one
Oh
of
yeah.
the things though, one of the things about getting ready to do that first mow. My lawn from a CEC standpoint, and it's just now waking up and how sandy it is. I know it's starving. Like there is very little in sitting in the ground right now in that plant for it to get going.
Hmm.
I'm I've got the over. I'm gonna hold off for the application.
So he cheating, man. This
He's
dude
not
going
cheating.
cheating.
He's gonna be
Going
surprised.
cheating.
I'm gonna go look this up right now. I'm gonna go look this up like his weather
Watch you
coming
get a
up.
watch you get a nice
He's gonna.
thunderstorm and get some free nitrogen.
Oh,
No, he's gonna
I'm
be
gonna be
doing.
honest.
He's gonna be
It
like
changed. It
Timmy
changed.
Bluegrass. He's gonna be covering the lawn with ice. He's gonna do all these. He's gonna pull all these tricks, right, to slow it down. Like, no, not yet, not yet, not yet. Right. So I mean, it's
Trying to
really
get
it's
this
gonna be a
pizza I
comparison.
can't
Like
eat.
you both are probably gonna have, between Turf you tomorrow and Cam over the next couple weeks, you guys are both probably gonna break the next door app servers for sure because everybody's gonna be like, you see what this guy is doing to his lawn, right? And it's gonna be worldwide, man. You guys are gonna be on two continents, right? Breaking the next door app because of lawns, and God bless you for it, right? You should be. If any two guys could do it, I have the faith that you would be those two guys. No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
man.
I'm looking at your weather. There's no way you're not mowing inside of like 10 days. Like there's just no
Period.
way.
Period. I
I'm
already
good.
know.
There's no way.
I'm
I already
good.
know.
I'm good.
I know what I would have been doing this time of year.
I'm
where
good.
I was
What
at
what
up
is
in
it? End of
Aberdeen.
March?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, I can make it. I can make it to
Grass-
May. I can make it.
grass-
I can make it to April.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say you made it to May. I was
No,
like,
no.
dang, man. Like,
Yeah, you ain't making it to May. May should be
Yeah,
you
it's,
should be creeping up on your second round mid-May,
that-
midway towards the end of May. You should be hitting it again.
that would have been, yeah. That I mean, if you could stretch that out till May from now, man,
Oh,
that'd
no.
have been
No.
a bigger feat than No Nut November, man. I'd have been proud of you for that.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm already trying to get the mowers ready. I'm like, nah, that I wouldn't have made that at all.
No, yeah, you'd have been out there just like, oh, like counting down. It would have been midnight, May 1st, and you'd be out there
Yep.
pulling that ripcord and going out there.
Yep.
All right. So there was a question. In
We
the
got a
chat,
good
I
question.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, sloth 1, 2, 3.
I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
pop that one down there for us.
Boom.
Word. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, question. Do you recommend regulating a turf type fall fescue before the spring flush, or get one good cut in the beginning of the flush and then regulate? Regulate before the flush, no question about it. Because just like Cam said, and that was it's a fantastic point, Cam. You don't want that yo-yo effect, right? You don't want to be pulling the string on that grass. Like, get it how you want it, and do it how you want it, and that's it. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to pull the rug out from under it and
There we go.
have it go through a flush and then regulate it down.
I think Telly gave us our beautiful cap for the night right there.
What's that? Oh boy! Don't forget cautious PGR like over application, damage repair recovery, some disease treatment. Dangers of mixing PGRs and fungicide. Dangers. What are you talking about, Telly? Dangers. Danger. All right.
Yeah, so that was
Damn.
on the list too. I think that was
Yeah,
gonna
it
be
was.
that was gonna
Yeah.
close. I think that was gonna close us out. Tell,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
tell-
what I say. He gave us our cap.
Yep.
Yeah, he
that was gonna close us out.
cap.
he does palm readings and stuff like that on the side. You don't know this about him, but he does trucking. He's a helicopter pilot. He could probably be a doctor if he had to be. I mean,
Probably.
he's an
Yeah.
extremely talented individual. Extremely
Yeah,
talented.
that's how those active duty, especially Army, retiree Army guy. I can't speak for any other service, but those retiree Army guys. Army of One. I think
He's
somewhere in there during his term of service.
he's no. I think he got in. I think he got in on the be all you can be, and he has definitely done that, Mr.
Right,
Coleman. All
right, but
right,
he was
so
still there during the Army of the One because it definitely felt that way. Let me go ahead and let you say.
he's a. All right, so let's. You don't want to meet his army of one. So okay, is this is a good question about the damage thing and everything like that. Okay, so like this is why the most approachable way to do this is just go in spring if you have all normal conditions, meaning like you haven't like uh you don't have a newly seeded lawn, you don't have something where you're trying to recover from damage, you don't have like Ryan Knorr where they dug a freaking internet fiber line through his front yard just on a whim because they wanted to. Like you don't have any of that stuff, right? You just have
Mm-hmm.
your existing grass, everything's same old. Like you're in the go zone there. If you got something special like that, or you're recovering from some damage or whatever, like you might want to pump the brakes on this, or skip around those areas if they're localized, whatever. Okay. Uh, the issue that Telly, or some of the issues that Telly brings up, are also good ones too. It's like, okay, I get into a situation here where, we're carrying this stuff through the summer, and this is where I would be. I I would say careful, right? If you're going to continue this past that Memorial Day ish, early June timeframe, is you better be on point with your fungicides. You better be on point with your water. You better be on point with your mowing because one slip up and it's like, well, I'll just grow out of. Oh, wait, I can't just grow out of that. I can't do that. And now it's not good. So in that sense, right? I think you got to if you're going to stick to it and you're going to keep going, got to have everything on point. So I think that's an advanced concept of taking it through summer and kind of learning all the nuances of doing that. But we talked about mixing it in with fungicides and things like that. Um, the what he's talking about in particular here is like one singular issue, and it's a very good point to bring up, right? So particularly if you are a propiconazole user or Eagle, which is Michael Butanol, any of the demethylase inhibitors, the DMI fungicides, I will send you a quick link so you can share with folks. Let me do this real quick. Fungicide. There we go.
That's a good one, Law Maverick. It's worth circling back to because I think we skipped
Woo.
over the granular versus liquid.
Oh boy, yeah, that's a good topic. All right. I can't find the one I want, but give me a second and I'll get it for you guys. The whole point here is that these demethylase inhibitors, they were all developed originally as growth regulators, and as it stood, they figured out, hey, actually, they're a little bit better as fungicides, so let's go ahead and use them as fungicides. Well, you go out there with these things and you got growth regulator in the tank, and they do absolutely have growth regulating properties to them, and you mix those two together, it's like making a really, really strong drink. And you think, that's one of those ones, gentlemen, it sounds like a good idea about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the bar, and 2 hours later you're like puking your guts out. You're like, man, I shouldn't have done that.
The
I
bad
should not have
move.
done
Should have
that.
just went to Spinelli's.
Bad move.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you don't have Spinelli's to soak it up, I mean, that's a cure-all. That's a cure-all. And if you don't know what Spinelli's is, they're not sponsoring us. They have no say in the game here. It's the only pizza place in the greater Louisville metro area that's open until 5 a.m. Why do we know that? Because we were there until 5 a.m. No big
Just
deal.
like that.
No problem.
Yeah,
We just wanted to make sure that their hours were what they say we are. We're just trying to be good Google reviewers.
It was back up by
Somebody's got
9.
Somebody's got to
Crushing
check
it.
that stuff out, right? Make sure they're being honest. So, um, and totally worth those 4.6 stars, I think, gentlemen. But I
Absolutely.
digress. I digress here. Um, so you
Three
got to be
verified
careful.
users on there. We're good. They're open till 5.
You got to be careful with those DMIs and the PGR. So don't do that. Save
Yeah.
those DMIs for later on in the season. Early in the season, okay. Like springtime, not so bad. But when you get high temps and you do that, most things can happen. So good,
Yeah.
Kelly. Good
One of
call.
the thing, one of the labels on the new it specifically says only apply when turf is actively growing. So for a cool season lawn, if you're in the armpit of the growing conditions for America, summer is not the time to be going out with a new. You should be letting it gently slide out of its regulation, most likely, or have timed it in a way to where it won't necessarily rebound nearly as
Mm-hmm.
hard because it's not liking the environment, and then jump right back on it as you start to slide back into that favorable growth potential, like Cam's chart showed earlier. And I think you'll be good to go.
Yeah, I'm what I currently have in mind is I want to get my
Well, for
first.
you might be taking because of your heavy shade.
You say what?
You may be taking a different approach because of your heavy shade. Yeah.
So my current plan is I'm gonna go first mow and app almost either right before or right at the same or right around the same period of time within a day or so, couple of days. What I think the label says
So
three
about
days. I think it says three days
so in about
after.
13 days. Yeah.
Something like that, somewhere around there.
I like the
Um,
countdown.
yeah. So I'm planning to do first mow and cut because that first cut is what's going to generate that wanting to get that spring flush going. As soon as you cut
Oh
it
yeah.
that first time, it's going to be ready to go. So I want to,
Mm-hmm.
just like Ryan was talking about, don't let it get going and then you're going to try and slow it down. So right around that same time, I want to line those two up. Boom, first cut application, and then I'll start tracking my growing degree days at that point. I really think I'm probably gonna be between three. Probably I'll get about 3 apps in. I believe maybe about 3 apps in. Just kind of estimating. I mean, it'll all depend on what it actually calculates out to be, but I think maybe three apps.
I think you'll get two.
You think too? I mean,
I think you're gonna get two.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to be 4 for me. It's not going to be any more
Oh
than
no.
it's not going to be any more than 3.
Before
Um,
summer? No.
no, and
Are we
then
talking for the whole season or just before summer?
before summer.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
you're gonna get two and
yeah.
come up with it.
So and that's what I'm planning on. I'm planning on between 2 and 3 apps before summer. Then boom, letting it come out of regulation, and at that point in time, that should get me into that June July time frame, and that's when things start to go down from a growing degree day and growth potential altogether starts to go down anyway. And then boom, I'm gonna let it ride out, and that's my plan, is to use it from that early spring flush standpoint, and then fall. I'm gonna just let the lawn do what it do during the fall. I'm gonna go ahead and feed it good, let it do what it does, and I'll enjoy mowing while it's cooler. And I'll stripe it up, enjoy the mowing while it's cooler out there, and then I'll go ahead and pack it in for the winter. And next spring, I'll reevaluate and see how this works out.
Okay. All right. I
That's a
like it.
solid plan.
I like it.
Let me see.
So before he had the question, Lawn Maverick threw one out there for the community, for the public, and I think it's worth. I mean, it was almost like a trick question, right? Any need to water in a PGR for the public, and I think there is a circumstances you would, but I also know Ryan does not like those circumstances that you would, particularly that product.
Oh,
I've heard them say it in the past. So,
wait. Which one?
um, what is it? Well, just like granular
Oh.
breath
I thought
regulators.
okay. I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were about to say like trim it, pack it, bleaches all because that's a root absorb one, and I again
No,
don't
no, no, no,
recommend
No.
that for
no, no, not
98% of
that.
folks who are listening to that, and that you add water in. But okay, no, the granular one. I mean, well, in terms
It's
of
not
your
your go-to.
options, there is no granular Anuew option. Number one, your other granular option is Governor G, which is Ternexin Pack or Primo, the same active ingredient as Primo, in a granular form. And the thing that you have to know about that is that it is still a foliar absorbed product, which means you have to put it out like weed and feed, meaning you have to go
Like
out and
it's
either
wet
a heavy
on a
dew or
damp.
you got to wet the leaf before you
Yeah.
put it on. It's a super small, like probably a 75 or a 90 SGN prill, really hard to see all that kind of stuff. So you're it's also pretty expensive too on a per 1,000 square foot basis. So if you're gonna go that route, I would just say like really think about if you're getting the most bang for your buck and if you're doing the best job that you can. Try and
Hmm.
get you on a sprayer and go that route.
Now, if it, and I think they do that to make people feel more comfortable or maybe to get you going. But I tell you this, we're not here to encourage complacency. The We Working team, that is, we're not here to encourage complacency. We like once you figure something out, okay, now it's time to learn something else. And
Yep.
for the people that make you feel like something's wrong with you because you want to dig a layer deeper,
We
fun
we
is
lost your audio real quick.
Do
my
it again.
audio.
Say it again.
Say it again. Yeah, you're back now, but we lost your audio for a minute.
Oh, okay, okay. What was I saying? Where did I cut out at?
No, we got you from the We Working team. We're not
You were
here.
about to
Like
give
if
us the dad speech and then you
yeah,
cut out.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
You were digging. We
Okay.
we want you to dig a little deeper and keep going.
Yeah, we want you to dig a little deeper. We want you to feel uncomfortable and then get comfortable again and then go at it again. And I think there's a rhyme and rhetoric that's being taught out there right now, or this message that's being pushed is like, oh, you don't have to get all into the weeds on XYZ. And I'd say run away from those people because those
Yep.
people will not tell you the truth about yourself. Those are kind of friends that will like come and tell you that they were talking about you, but they sat there the whole time while they were talking about you and they didn't say anything about it. Like you should be pushing yourself to know better and do better each year. There's nothing like it's okay to learn and still have fun. The implication that you can't learn and have fun is a little belittling to you as it's like the tax code. It's like, oh, just keep it simple. Just, that's not for you. That's for the rich people. No, I need to get in on that too. Let me
Yeah,
figure out some how many square feet in this house I can claim. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
yeah.
Get in on that tax.
I mean,
Sound traveled slow from Germany. That's funny. Yeah, that's facts.
I think that's all important stuff, and I agree. I mean, um, there's an old saying. A famous football coach once said, "Complacency always comes to collect. Complacency always comes to collect."
Yeah.
And
I like it.
man, the older you get, the more you realize,
Right.
man, that is true. It is true. And like I said, I think that's it's something where here's I'm always about this is like um, I every day my job is to sit and talk about big, huge, grandiose ideas with people, and they're like, "Oh man, that's great," but like, how do we do that? Take the first step, right?
Yeah.
So like, let's just take this PGR thing, right? If you're hearing this for the first time, and let's say there's maybe a few different people, right, that have heard this. Let's talk about three different like avatars or archetypes of people. Number one, you have no idea what we're talking about. You're interested. You want to try it. Okay, try just that spring app period, right?
Yep.
Just play around with that. That's all you need to bite off and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel like you need to go past that right now, right? Just get that, nail it, apply, observe, repeat, and figure out. And the barrier to entry there is super low. The next group of people might be the ones that have tried that or tried it in some form or fashion, but all right, maybe I haven't figured it all out. I was applying, but I was like on some like weird schedule, or I wasn't applying it correctly, like in
Correctly.
terms of the
Yep.
timing and intervals. All right, I'm going to learn a little bit more about growing degree days now, and I'm going to use the Greenkeeper app, or I'm going to use Greencast or something like that, and I'm going to use the tools that
Mm-hmm.
are available to me to improve my accuracy in delivering these apps.
Yep.
Cool, great. Just do that one little piece, right? Just that
Mm-hmm.
improving the accuracy piece. The last one might be the people that have done this and perfected it, right? And now, hey, am I getting, the best bang for my buck on whatever this product is? Maybe I want to take a little bit of this, side piece of the yard or whatever and try something different because I'm worried about root growth, or I'm worried about, mowing or something like that, and I'm going to try something different. Those are the opportunities to add different things in the mix and just take one singular piece. That's what I always
Mm-hmm.
tell folks is like, don't throw the kitchen sink at
Whole
it and
kitchen
expect to be
sink.
able to
Yep.
say, "Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that one product, man. Wait, how many ingredients did you have in that meal?
Right.
Oh, like four, like 13. But man, I'm telling you, man, like that one, that was it. Like, are you sure? Oh, I had to because it was artisan and I got free shipping on it, and like some guy on the
Yep.
internet told me it was the best thing in the world. Yeah, but are you sure?
Yeah.
Right.
I think.
Right. Because you threw so much at it, right?
Yep.
I like
Yeah, so
I
just
like the
Eh,
one
analogy of
thing. One
when we're
thing.
doing advanced rifle marksmanship, right? We talk about shooting slick first, right? So when you shoot with certain units, advanced close quarters combat and stuff like that. I know Cam, he knows all about this as well because he's a shooter. But talk about variables, right? So a variable, we start off shooting slick, meaning there's no kit, you're not wearing kit,
Mm-hmm.
you got your basic amount of protective gear on, glasses and maybe gloves, right? Once you understand the fundamentals of shooting and you got that down, now we add a variable. That variable may be your helmet. Okay, so now it's like reapply all those fundamentals, and now you got your helmet on. Okay, because you have to account for that variable. Then you throw your kit on. So that is exactly the building blocks that Ryan just pitched, and I fully support that. I like that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, like
Yep.
it's NCAA basketball time, right? John
Yep.
Wooden, the first practice, literally, it didn't matter if you in that program 3, 4, whatever years. The first thing they did at the first practice, he would teach you how to put your socks and your shoes on the right way so that you could perform the right way. Like your shoes weren't too loose, they weren't too tight, whatever. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine somebody
Yep.
saying, like, I don't care what you think you need to make sure you know. And
Yep.
I think that's what you guys do, and I appreciate that about you guys in Polo is that it's not always just like, hey, push, 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 do something new. It's like take all that foundational shit and make sure that you do
You
know it
know it. Yep.
and you apply it, and then take this
And
one
it's
little
work.
thing that
And
we're
it's
trying to show
working.
you and just add it.
Yeah.
Then we
And,
add something
I
else to it.
that's it. That's
and see,
life, man.
that's kind of where I am. And then just looking at my whole long journey of where I see it going.
Hmm.
Like a lot of people's like, well, what do you think about this product? What do you think about this product? And are you going to try this? Or are you going to try that? Or are you going to try this?
It's like maybe next season.
I'm not
I see.
next season. Like, and Turf and I have talked about it. We talked about it in the We Working chat with Polo is like, I am and I think this is the engineer in me. I want to be able to control the variables and know what's going on. So
Yeah.
the more variables that I change, I don't know what happened. I don't know what was the driver in it. So when you see me
Absolutely.
running certain products or you see me running something, I am either going to stick with it for the entire season or I have already ran it for a season and now I'm
Mhm.
talking about it.
Yeah.
And
Yep, absolutely. And sometimes we'll see new products throughout the year and we're like, oh, that looks
That's
interesting.
an
We'll keep
interest.
our eye
I
on
own
that
it.
product. We will wait until we finish, unless we have a reason to introduce. So sometimes it's like, okay, I have a need
Yeah.
that might be the fix. Now I'm going to throw it in there because what I have going on due to Mother Nature, I have an issue that I need to fix, and I think this may get after it. Usually, but that's why you don't see a whole bunch of new products popping in and out of any of our content,
Yeah,
because we trying to figure out what the heck is working, what's not
yeah.
not working. You throw the kitchen sink at
I like a foundation. Like you get a foundation down and you know what's working and you know what your lawn needs and you know what's going on. Now you can vary something here and there, but for the average homeowner, once you develop a plan and you identify what your lawn needs, you don't have to change it every year. Like you don't
mm-mm,
have to reinvent the wheel. Like I said it in my last
mm-mm.
video, I'll continue to say it. My lawn program this year is going to look very similar to what it did last year because it worked.
It
My
worked.
fungicide routine, I didn't talk about it much last year because it was my first time running it. So now that I've ran it for a year, you know what I'm doing? It worked.
Talking.
And I'm running the same thing all over again this year, and I'll let you know what I did.
Yeah, and within those plans, like John Rob Will Film Stuff says, hey, your environment is always changing. You got to be able to adapt, but you can't the fundamentals. If you don't have the fundamentals, you
Yeah,
don't even know where to like, how to adapt. And that could simply be like, oh, I plan to make an application on this date, and this
yeah,
date. Or this calendar told me to make an application on
yep.
this date, and this date. Not understanding that when you're coming in under that 13.5, you got to adapt, buy Spinelli's pizza, and cut the grass. You just got to do it. You just got to do
No,
it.
and
You
I
like
man,
that?
I
You like
can't
I did
agree
that? That was nice.
with both you guys enough. Is that I mean, I'll try to condense my thoughts into this. Is that you know, not wrong, right? With that last comment, right? In
Yeah,
terms
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah. You gotta adapt.
but
Mm-hmm.
being able to apply the concepts and the fundamentals of basic agronomy, right, is it's not undefeated, but it's got a hell of a lot better win and loss record than any product, any singular product or any line of products or anything like that. And I'm not here to talk crap, like at all. Like,
Yeah.
bottom line is this, gentlemen, and you guys are going to prove it this year. You are literally going to be like the first people that prove it on YouTube, and that's why I'm so excited for you all. Right? Is that the products that we use right here in the states are different, you know, for the most part. There's some similarities here and there, but they're different products. They're not branded a certain, you know, particular brand, right, that we might be used
Mm-hmm.
to or comfortable with in Germany as they are in the United States, or in Australia as they are in Vietnam, right?
Yep.
The whole point is this: is that regardless of what products that you have to use, good agronomy exists on all
Agronomy.
7 continents.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter
All
where you
seven.
are, and you can apply those concepts properly. You can use pretty much whatever you want, right?
Yep.
And you can get you know, as goofy as you want. You get as expensive as you want, exotic, whatever, you know, what, insert your own adjective of choice right there. So I think that's important. I think, you know, the other thing too that folks need to realize is that, you know, like the dates and the calendar thing, man, is like this PGR talk proves that point. It proves the point that we had 20 years ago, right? We said, hey,
Mm-hmm.
by the calendar, every 7 to 14 days, 7 days if you're on this rate,
Yep.
14 days if you're on this rate. Oh, well, we just got to keep
You got
jacking up the rates. We got to do this to manipulate the system and make it work for us. And
Mm-hmm.
we're all sitting there thinking, man, we're smart. Look how smart we are. We figured this out. Like, it's not necessarily like on the label, but we know how to figure it out. And guess what? We were wrong. And the thing that we've
Mm.
learned more and more and more about turf, right, is that, and not turf the person, but turf the crop. Sorry, I should be more specific. Uh, well, and maybe turf the person too, is that it doesn't go by a calendar. It is not something that you can sit there and say, hey, a calendar based approach is the best approach, right? It is just simply not
Not
true.
it. Yeah.
And the research bears this out more and more and more. This PGR thing is a great microcosm to that. There's there's a ton of research going on right now. I'll tell you a good spot to go look. University of Connecticut is doing a ton of really good research right now, looking at a variety of different programs, looking at conventional programs, looking at organic programs, hybrid programs, and going on a calendar based approach versus a fundamental, agronomic approach of what does the turf need right now based on what we're observing, what we're seeing, and what we know about this stand of turf. And guess what? Fundamental, basic agronomy is winning, hands down, hands down.
Yeah.
every time.
So again, you gotta get back to the basics. You got to make sure that you got that stuff locked down, and you know how to observe. And I think what you guys do is try to teach folks that using tools like this, using tools like growing degree days, not just necessarily for PGRs, but also for learning about different physiological events that will occur in a plant's life cycle in a given year or whatever. Right? It gives you something to go by and say, oh, hey, like I should be looking out for that one insect because we're near the GDD target for it. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna go out there and take a peek and see if we have any white grubs that are showing up out there. I'm gonna see if we got any bill bugs or chinch bugs. I'm gonna see, if my dollar spot model is telling me that we might have some white puffy stuff on the lawn, and that's no bueno. We need to do something about it. So using all those tools, using the science symptoms and the technology that's available and the research that's out there right now is just that's what's gonna win,
Yep.
hands down. That's what's going to have the better winning percentage long term. If you're going to go bet against the house and use products, you're going to lose because the house always wins on the products, guys. So
Always.
Facts.
Always.
they always win on the products. So it's just the way it is.
Um, this guy. What was the question? I know you saw it,
Is
Ken.
it this one?
Yep, there it is. Boom.
Yeah.
I
So
think.
I
I think.
already had a bookmark, and I was like, yo, let's this one's gonna close. Like we'll knock this one out, and this we'll close out with this one. Um, Thoughts on PGR for a lateral spread versus a heavy end program for a spring long post fall reno, KGB and
Oh yeah.
another.
Okay.
I kind of touched
This
on
one's
this while you were gone, Ryan, and I stopped myself from misspeaking on the lateral spread versus the thickening of the turf because I think sometimes those terms are misused and misinterpreted.
Hmm.
But go ahead, do your thing.
I mean, if the question is specific to KBG, then my answer is unequivocally push your N in that spring following a fall renovation or a fall seeding, bare ground or otherwise, right? Is just push your N and try to get that stuff to build density as quick as you can. There's a certain point I think in I would say this sort of a game time decision, right? If I had, I'm seeing if I got any pictures. I don't think I can't pull them up quick enough, but if you have better than let's just say like 80% coverage, and I will give you a quick tip, if you have either iOS or Android, and you have a new seed or renovation job that you're doing, download the Canopeo app, Canopeo, Canopeo. It's a nice little app that was developed by Oklahoma State, absolutely free, zero cost to you. And you take a picture from about belly button height straight down on the turf, and it'll tell you the exact percentage of green cover that you have on that stand. I use that extensively on all of our renovation new build projects to show weekly progress. I would encourage you to do the same. And the reason I say this is once you get to about 80 to 90% coverage, at that point, I think the following spring you would be okay to employ a growth regulator to try and build some of that density out while also pushing N because it sounds kind of counterintuitive. Well, hey, why would I put fertilizer down if I'm putting down a plant growth regulator? That makes no sense. You still need nitrogen for those physiological processes, right? So all that energy that you're trying to send to the roots, you still need nitrogen to execute those processes. If you've done a proper winterization program or you've pushed it hard in the fall on a renovation, you can absolutely get some of that free return right on the back end of that coming out of spring what the roots have built up, but it's still okay to push a little bit. Those are special situations, and again, this is where agronomy 101 starts to apply. 202, 303, 404, and then we get into graduate level studies, and Cam's teaching the class. But that those are special situations, and those right there, like I said, I would just start at a basic level to answer that question and say 80-90% coverage. Go ahead and use your PGRs, but don't be afraid to put a little bit of extra N on it in the spring. Don't get freaked out about that whole, oh, I can't put N down in the spring. Don't just a little bit more than what you think you need.
Yeah, that's a dope app. I know Cam wish he had that app like 2 weeks ago.
Oh
I
man,
know that's
it could
what
be
you're thinking.
deceiving. It could be
And
deceiving on
Cam's over there
existing in the
like,
spring because
dang, I wish I
it's.
had known about this 2 weeks ago.
Oh
I,
But
I
man,
but
got it now.
but see, I'm one of them
You got
like
experience.
yeah, I know what's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
you got
Like
experience. Right, you got
already
experience. But that
already
app
know.
still is cool. Come on now.
Yeah,
That
it
added
is.
that extra tool.
Yeah,
Cause you about to go outside and use it first thing in the morning. I already know.
T- tools in the toolbox.
wait a second. Let me see. I got one more for you.
I
Hang on.
already
Let me see if I can
downloaded it.
find it.
I got it. I got it. I already downloaded it. I'm in
Let me
there.
see.
That's perfect for me.
No, this is not what I want.
So while you looking for that, Ryan,
Right on.
I'm gonna just pop something up real quick.
I
Right
Um,
thought
on.
they were trolling you. I thought you knew that person or something. We had a couple trolls tonight.
nah,
Troll energy was thick.
yeah, and I ignored most of them.
Yeah.
But this one is I'm gonna just go ahead and say no. This is another tool in the toolbox, as we were just talking about. Um, for your situation, a PGR may not fit your situation, but there are a number of other situations to where it may fit. And I really think the situation that I'm dealing with, heavy shade, a lot of the things that I see, I think this is going to be a benefit for me. Will it work out? We'll find out. But I know that there's a number of people out there that have been asking these questions, these same questions that we've talked through. Yeah, I may have already known the answer to a lot of these questions already. But the thing is that these are the questions that have come up around this topic, and we're bringing this information not only to the people that are listening here, but the people that are going to catch the replay, and also the people that are going to come behind and wanting to know these same answers that we're providing here. And we said it earlier. I don't know if you've been here the whole time, but we explicitly said PGRs do not fit every scenario. They do not fit for everybody. But I kind of saw some of the things that you were saying earlier, and I don't 100%
Yeah,
agree with you.
I would love to say to you real quick, Tundra guy, I would love to read your dissertation on the more cons than pros for this stuff or
Yeah.
whatever. Something like please
What is
slide
it?
that to me. Email that to me ASAP so I can read your dissertation on that. I don't know what your
Wait, what?
background is. It's probably
I,
tech or something, but
I can't believe
I
you're
would
wasting an entire episode of this. I mean, listen, I'm a guest here, and I don't want to impose, but I'm just gonna say this is like,
You're amongst
number one,
family and friends,
you
Ryan.
you,
You good.
you can always change the channel, man. Like it's all good.
Right.
I appreciate you either jumping on for the 30 seconds to judge us or staying for the entire thing and waiting till the end to judge us. Either way, I applaud you, sir, and the effort that
Yeah.
you've taken, put into making these comments. I would say this is listen. I will
in the tundra
and
it would be no use for it.
Robert and
Exactly.
Cam can both attest to this. You tell me what you want to talk about related to turf, and we will jam on it for the next two
Oh
hours.
yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
Robert's got nothing to do tomorrow. I mean, he can sit here and go for another 2 hours if he has to.
You mean today? Like literally
Whatever. It's all
sun is,
hey,
sun is
it's all
rising
relative,
in
man.
2 hours.
All right. Listen. I think for this cast, we all need to start going by Zulu time, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Like nobody gets lost.
Right.
See,
Yeah.
GMT
Zulu
for
time
life
should be. Yeah.
on we working. That's it.
Yep.
We just made the decision. So,
Yep. It is
but
law.
Tundra, hey, anytime you want to come on, I listen. I'm not saying this like in jest. I'm serious. Whatever you want to talk about, let these guys know, and we'll come on and do an episode with. For
Yeah.
real,
Like
I can
and
talk about
this
anything.
and that's the other thing is like if there's another topic that you would like to talk about, if there's another topic that is out there, that's where a lot of the live stream concepts come from.
Yeah.
The-
Not
These
giveaways or stuff we're
these
just trying to sell you.
these are topics that everybody has been asking. Like these are the same questions that are popping in. Like this is where like a lot of our concepts come from, is from the community that people are asking the questions.
So he's saying he never had luck with PGR. My cool season KBG always had disease pressure that extended for at least a month or more. There's really no benefit to this unless you hate to mow as often. Okay, so there's layers that you're adding in that maybe you shouldn't be, and I don't mean this, I'm not trying to be critical, I promise you. Is it sounds like, and I don't know if you're irrigated or unirrigated, that matters, number one. Number two, and I told you guys this, Cam, I told you this when we talked. If you're going to take this through the summertime, whether you're irrigated or
Mm-hmm.
unirrigated, and I'd be very cautious if you're unirrigated, you best have your fungicide
Side
program
program.
on point. You
Yep.
best have your mowing on point, your irrigation. Like you increase the level of difficulty when you add in this one little piece, right? Like to all these other things, and that's the thing. That's the and Cam, I know this hurts your brain to hear it. It does, but that's the thing I love about turf is that you can't just change one thing and not have it affect at least one other thing.
Yeah.
It's
But
just
see, but
it's
see,
impossible.
but see, now you know that you've changed something, and you can
Yes,
see what that outcome was, and now you
fair,
can you're
fair.
like, okay, I changed this, and boom, this happened. Now you
Yep.
can make the correlations that happen, and which
Mhm.
is why, like, I saw that comment earlier, which is why, like, you were just seeing it, and I was like, that's why I didn't agree with what was going on,
Right.
because we
Yeah.
talked
Yeah.
about that.
That was a specific scenario.
We
It's
talked
like this
about
happened to
disease
me,
pressure.
so I am absolute that this is trash. Like, come on, bro.
We talked
Come
about
on. We got
disease pressure. We talked about mowing.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
talked about all of that. Like, this doesn't eliminate the fact that you're not going to have any disease pressure.
yeah.
The disease
You just
pressure is
came
going
to
to be
class late.
there, and it's going to be more prevalent, that you're not going to recover from it as quickly as you could, because it's going to be under regulation, especially if you carry it beyond your growing degree days and into that summer high disease pressure time, which is why I plan to back off of mine, and I'm planning all of that rebound to be around when I see my high disease pressure, which I already know is about like the last week of June. I know
I'm gonna
that's
tell
what
you.
I know
Yeah.
that's
So it
when
sounds
my
like to
disease
me,
pressure
Tundra guy
amps
should have
up.
came to class on time. Tundra, you should have showed
No,
up on time. You
I'm
should have learned something.
I'm gonna tell you this is a
I'm
true
just
story.
saying.
I
You should have
like
showed up
middle of
on
summer.
time.
This is on
We could have
this
helped
is a
you out,
fairway
man.
application on a golf course, 38 acres, made like a probably like a $6,500 fairway application, right?
Hmm.
Pretty sizable investment, and it sits out there for about 30 minutes, and a rain shower pops up, and I mean like not just like a little like, oh hey, we're gonna get the pavement wet. I'm talking like it came down like for like 3 minutes, like just enough,
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
All the PGR got in the plant just fine. All the fungicide washed off right down the drain. So, what do you think happens a week later, right? And
Disease pressure's up.
this is me being naive. This is me being 22 years old, being an assistant. Then, oh hey, oh wow, hey, there's a little bit of disease out here on number two fair. Oh, there's more in three, four, five. Dude, what's going on here? And sure enough, you know, that's when you learn. It's like it's nothing's foolproof, and you've got to plan for all the eventualities. And so all I would say to Tundra guy is, you know, just you got two options, as I see it. Number one, just do the spring thing with the PGRs and cut
Mm-hmm.
them out after that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, get your fungicide program dialed in and run that through the summer along with your PGRs. And again, observe, take notes, take pictures, things like that, because you forget what stuff looks like. Wait, how bad was that back when oh wow, it was really bad when I look at the picture. You know, we always remember things better than what they really are. So
Because we don't want them to be as bad as what
oh
they
man,
were.
I'm so I hate looking through my photo roll. I'm like, oh man, I'm like going back, like it'll remind you, like, hey, this is 3 years ago. Like, I hate
Ooh,
looking at
that was
those in like
bad.
July and August because it's always bad stuff that I'm getting. It's always bad stuff I'm taking pictures of. But anyway,
Yeah.
I would do one of those two things: simplify your plan or beef up, your knowledge base and get your fungicide plan right.
I think that's a segue right there.
Amen.
I ain't got nothing else. I ain't got nothing else for you.
That's the
Um,
next.
so I will say, Ryan, thank you for joining us. Appreciate
Yeah,
the
no problem, man.
time. Appreciate you coming through. This was definitely a topic that had been circling around in the community. It had been circling
Mhm.
around on Thirsty Thursdays
Uh,
we talked about it. Like I mean, it's just I've been getting the questions from it, and I think this was good information just to put out there. Again, another tool in the toolbox. We had a good time. We got some good laughs in. We want to thank Paul also. Thank you,
yeah, for
Paul,
sure.
for coming through.
Yes, sir.
He had to leave out on us on an emergency, and we completely
Family comes
understand
first.
always. But Paul did provide that applicator and that hands on, as in
Hmm.
a business owner perspective of it, that a lot of business owners may not have even thought about yet, but Paul's already ran it. So if you haven't, go check out. He's got videos and stuff on it. Him running the PGRs and the results and everything that he's getting it. So once again, we want to thank everybody for coming through. Um, I'm gonna start with Demay, special guest. Final words to close us out.
Hey, listen. Number one is thank you both so much for having me on. I could get on here and talk turf all night. You guys know that. So I always appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you guys, especially. I appreciate your content. I appreciate what you guys and Polo have built here with this thing. Is you got a loyal following of people that just want to try and get it right. Just want to try
Yep.
and get it right, and that's all you can ask, right? Like I'm 26 years deep into this business, and I'm still trying to get it right.
Yep.
And ain't nobody got it figured out. Anybody that tells you that they do is full of what. And I think you just got to keep coming up there and swinging. So, but seriously, I appreciate you all. I appreciate the opportunity to come up and talk. And listen, only other question I have is when are we gonna do it again?
Hey,
Mm,
I like that question. I like
mm.
that. So Ryan, I will say I took my next step in trying to get it right earlier this week, which is
Oh
why it
no!
wasn't like a promo video and all of that. So
Oh no!
it was test taking week this week. So
Oh, no
yeah,
doubt. Are you
yeah,
serious?
yeah, it
When
was.
did you find out yet?
No,
He
I
crushed
haven't.
it. We
You
already
got to
know
do like
he
a big.
crushed it. Ryan,
Can we?
he had 2 hours to take the test. Cam was out in 60 minutes.
Can we do? We got to
And
do
that was
this
because
like
I
a.
did the test twice.
Right, he
It's
did
got
it
to be
twice.
like
He
the
did it in 60 minutes.
a pregnancy reveal or like a gender reveal or something like that. You got to do a video like that of you open it up or like you got the college acceptance letter and like we get your first reaction. I
Cam
seriously, we need
said,
your. We're
"Y'all
gonna
gonna
get to Mrs. Elevated Landscapes and have her intercept that letter, and we're gonna get like a total instant reaction of you opening that letter. I want to see you like running through the house and screaming and carrying on. Like I need that in my life, please.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
we'll
passed the
find.
core."
So yeah, we'll find out. So
All right, I
we'll
got
see
faith
how
in
that
you. I
goes.
got lots of faith. Lots of faith,
Turf,
gentlemen. Thank you so much.
we gonna
Go
wrap
ahead.
it
Go ahead.
up. Final words from you, Turf.
Hey, appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you for everything that you do for us and the community. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for pulling up and being here. Hope y'all learned something, and I hope that you go and build on it. You know what I mean? Whatever you didn't understand tonight or what piqued your interest, go build on it. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at the weworkingteam at gmail.com. If you got any questions, we got you.
I appreciate it, and that's gonna close us out. We appreciate everybody for joining, and hope y'all have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's supposed to be
Enjoy it.
nice up here. Just enjoy it. That's all we got to say. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Just know we work.
We working.